This podcast was recorded on the ancient lands of the Gadigal peoples of the Eora Nation in Australia. I wish to acknowledge their rich and continuing culture, and especially pay respect to the elders, past, present, and emerging, and to acknowledge and pay respect to any First Nations people from anywhere in the world who may come to hear this podcast. We hope that we may all come to walk with gentle feet, strong minds, and compassionate hearts in this global village. My guest today burst onto our TV screens and into our hearts in 2003 when he won the first season of Australian Idol with his gorgeous afro. Since then, he's been very busy and he's had a stellar career, winning no less than 6 ARIA awards and having 6 number one singles and 3 number one albums. He's currently working on a new album due out later in 2025, and he has just recently released the first single from it, a soul pop belter called Maybe. Guy's been a judge on The X Factor, a coach on The Voice Australia, and in 2013, he founded a youth mental health charity, the Sebastian Foundation, with his wife, Jules Sebastian. Also, in 2025, Guy Sebastian made his acting debut in the Bollywood-inspired film Hindi Vindi, where he also contributed to the soundtrack and played a significant role. Gosh, he can act as well. He's also been awarded the Order of Australia in 2019 for his service to the music industry and his charitable works. With such a glamorous career, you might expect Guy Sebastian's head to be in the clouds. But it's not. It's grounded firmly with his family. Jules and his 2 sons, Hudson 13, Archie 10.
Yes, about to be 11.
There you go. Yeah. And Guy, welcome to the Good Enough Dad.
Thank you.
Now, it's sort of end of term right now while we're recording this. So how was this morning in the family home?
Well, I think Archie's trying to start his holidays early. No, he's actually quite crook. I even tested him the other day, and he's got influenza A. So he says moved to his chest. He's all coffee and spluttery today, and I've been keeping my distance just because I was on Idol last night to perform. Yeah. So the last thing I need is the flu, but it's hard because we're a big cuddly family. There's a lot of cuddles, and some sort of like turning the head and still just going in for a little cuddle.
Oh my gosh, that was so good, and I just have to say how much I absolutely loved that performance.
Oh, thank you. And Huddy went off to camp this morning, so
wow.
Yeah,
great.
I think Jules and I have very different feelings because she's like, bye.
See you later, dude.
No, I'm joking. She obviously misses him, but yeah, look, he's entered teenagehood.
Oh yeah,
with a vengeance.
Oh yeah. Now, and that's when things get a little interesting.
Yeah.
So you had some big moves in your younger years. First from Malaysia to Australia, and then from Melbourne to beautiful Adelaide. Yeah. So what can you remember about those?
I remember when we first moved to Australia, we sort of, there was a guest room in one of my cousin's house, and I think they converted the garage to a little guest room so that we had somewhere to live when we first moved. And so I think we crashed there for a little while, and Dad found this little unit on John Street in Lilydale, and so my dad's a geologist, and he would sort of fly in, fly out on different oil rigs offshore and onshore, and he worked really, really hard. And then one of the rigs that he worked on, one of the mining towns that he worked in was Moomba, actually. Yeah. So that's why we ended up moving to Adelaide. So I kind of grew up, mainly in Adelaide, but remembering, for me, it was a lot of moving around at the start, and then we kind of settled in Adelaide.
So you've got 3 brothers, which of course really means your mum and I could probably have some big chats about raising 4 boys. Yeah. So how was it with 3 brothers growing up? Because sometimes that can be interesting.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky, and I'm really close with all my brothers, and there's myself and my older brother, so he's 3.5 years older than me, and then there's kind of a 7-year gap, and then I've got Chris who also sings, and then Jeremy, my youngest brother, who he was kind of a pretty loose kind of kid. He was pretty naughty growing up. So I reckon of all 4 of us, he tested mum the most, but then ended up getting, this partner, Emma, who just straightened him out, and he got a couple of degrees. He's an accountant. He's actually my accountant now, and he's very good. And he became a pro boxer for a little while, but now he's just a dad himself. We all have 2 kids each, and but it was good. You know, I think it was tough for Mum because, like I said, Dad was fly in, fly out, so it'd be like a month on, month off, and here's Mum with 4 boys to raise. So I guess, because there was sort of 2 younger boys and then myself and Ollie, my older brother, we took a bit of a authoritative role with the 2 younger ones. So it was a strange dynamic to snap out of, I think, for a little period of time, because especially Ollie, we'd be sending them to their room and stuff just to help Mum out with the discipline, because they'd be carrying on, and she was just, exhausted. So we'd be like, nah, you're grounded, get to your room, you're done, which is kind of odd for brothers to do. But we didn't know, it was just how it was. And then I think you all hit adulthood, and, the older brothers still think that they've got this kind of authoritative thing over the younger brothers, and they quickly remind you, dude, those days are done. We're big boys now, we're all adults, and
There is a tendency, and it's driven by biology, that the oldest boy, when Dad's not around, tends to step forward as some form of,
authoritative figure.
Yeah, not necessarily a dad, but they actually step up to support. Isn't that interesting? It's actually in our biology.
He definitely did that. Ollie's always been that. Yeah,
ticking for that. Now, your parents are from Malaysia and India, so that means great curries.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Now, how did that mix of cultures kind of influence you? And it wouldn't have always been a smooth journey, would it?
Yeah, I mean, it was more smooth than rough, I would say. I guess growing up, I think I'm grateful for my parents raising us to be very, very balanced in our thinking. We wouldn't jump the gun straight to a victimhood mentality. We would sort of try and look at the lay of the land and look at the positives and negatives, and not, I guess, put wide brushstrokes on society or so they taught us that pretty early on, which I'm grateful for. And I think it's also in our personalities. So for me, I felt special having that culture. I felt like the difference. I was a brown kid with an afro, and I kind of loved that I was different and embraced it. There were times where it sucked. There was, playing footy and back in those days it was, there was some interesting characters that would resort to, the racist names or whatever. But I don't know. I've been asked a lot about being a different kid, and I've just always, I've got the same philosophy on that internally for me, is that there's good humans and there's crap humans, it's very difficult to just label, so widely. So I don't feel like I necessarily grew up in a racist environment. There's just always the odd idiot that resorts to that, because, I had so much support. Growing up, I had such great mates who never made me feel different, and they loved my mum's curries, and it was, I don't know, it was a bit more, I guess, as I entered my later teens and then heading out onto the Idol stage, that was when I realised how sheltered I was, because that's when you get the opinions that are so wide-ranging. You're on TV, you're on a competition. The other guy is a quintessential Aussie sheep shearing country boy from Condobolin.
What about me?
And so that's probably when I was maybe confronted the most, with that difference, that I was, I'm different. But I never really saw myself as that. I just always thought I was an Aussie kid, and I ended up winning. So
when did music land, and when did you find you had this fabulous voice? Was it in your home?
Young, I was young. I grew up mainly just singing at home for hours, like 3-4 hours. I'd be by the radio.
Seriously?
Back in the day when you would wait, you'd listen to the Hot 40 or whatever it is, and you'd wait for your favourite song, and you'd quickly hit play and record and make your own little cassette mixtape, and then you'd wear it out. Like kids will never understand wearing out a tape.
No,
like
I have no idea.
you can't wear out Spotify or Apple Music. And so that was my. I guess my foray mainly into music, and then I was in a few bands growing up. I was in like this small kind of rock band. I was a drummer for a little while, and then I was in a band at school, in a church band, and I think that was probably the best playground for music for me was growing up in that gospel music scene, because you just learn harmonies, you learn to get over nerves, and I think mostly you learn that music, it's a great way to connect with music, because your first relationship with music in the gospel world is that it is the vessel that is being used to usher people into a place of peace. So whatever's happened that week, you want those people in the congregation to basically feel peace. And so music to me wasn't about me or what you could get out of it. It was a really pure like art form. Yeah. And so I'm grateful for that. It was a really nice way to grow
I think one of the terms that I've come across in the last year is when we sing together and when there is music that uplifts us, it creates the collective effervescence and makes all of us feel good.
Absolutely,
we actually know that one of the ways to create positive neurochemicals is singing.
Yes.
And that's why I get sad when music is pushed to the edge of our classrooms now, because we sang a lot in the olden days, even though I was kicked out of the choir because my voice was too deep. But there's that place that it's a fundamental way of connecting humans.
Absolutely, yeah.
And don't we still loving to do it? Why we all go to our concerts and sing it along is because we all leave on a natural high.
Yeah, and I think it's the unity aspect of it. So especially, there's a lot of research done amongst adolescents, and when they join together and unite with music, and especially singing, there's feelings that they get out of that as kids that they can't get on the playground or at at lunchtime when there's so much segregation. Those kids play. That's the handball group and that's the basketball group, and they're the readers in the library, and it's very segregated. But here's this kind of forced unity where everyone's on this equal playing field. And it's just, I don't know. There's so much research that fascinates me in the power of music.
And there was this amazing, sort of specialist who was saying how with music, particularly music and singing, how we change the brain so positively. But I keep on sort of suggesting, because I have so many more dads who come to my seminars now, and I'll keep on saying, you can still sing with your kids. You can keep music. It's not just, hand over, something that's got music in it. And a dad came up to me one day and said, "Oh, Maggie, I didn't know nursery rhymes, but I'm a tradie and I used to take my girl in the car with us, and we just played AC/DC.
Yeah.
And so by 5, she didn't know the lyrics, but she knew all the terms. And he said, and his Adam's apple started to go and he's got tears in his eyes. He said, "I just want to let you know we've just come back from Sydney. They were in Perth. I've just taken my girl. We've gone to an AC/DC concert and she's 19. And the power of connection through music. And so my dad was a Seekers fan, and so when we went round the sheep, we'd have it. So if ever I want to get close to him now, he's been gone, 25 years, I just play Seekers and he's with me again. So there's this great power in the familiar songs from our childhood.
Absolutely,
which are underestimated. So
well, it's the power of senses, right? And for some people it's smell. Music is obviously a huge one. It's not just nostalgia, it is a physical stored thing that you've got, and it's people will think, for example, oh my gosh, I smell that perfume. Oh my gosh, that's my first girlfriend. That, you have that. It's crazy how we can, through a stored memory, just derive that. But it's the same with music, and it's very powerful. I mean, of course, I'm going to say that I'm a musician, and I that's what makes me tick. If it was just a bunch of notes strung together, I would have been bored a long time ago. But I firsthand see the power that it has.
And so either of the boys, have they?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. That's
No,
even
like,
better.
So Hudson's my 13-year-old. He's just entered teenagehood, and he's, for Hudson, Jules is like, Hudson's you. Like, he is literally you. He's into footy. Like, I grew up playing AFL. I played cricket my whole life, and Hudson plays both of those sports. And he's right into fishing, and he's got all these things that we share as a common interest. And then there's Archie, who is very artistic, and he's really into reading, very into music. Like, he is, honestly, and I'm a tough critic because I've been in that red chair and in various chairs where you see all the hopefuls that come in and everyone rates themselves, and sometimes you've got to be tough and give them tough love. But Archie's got something. Like, he's just got this thing you can't teach, and it's the connection, because he's such a deep person. It comes out in his gift, and his gift, mind you, is like also technically ridiculous. Like, he can sing riffs and runs and hear harmonies and pick chords, and like, it's the stuff that he hasn't had lessons. I've just wanted him to develop his ear, and I haven't pushed him ever. And it's just been this thing that he's just developed, and he's writing songs that, we just had his grandfather just passed, Jules's father. He came in and he plays this song, and he's got his guitar. Dad, I wrote this song. It's called "Convince You to Stay." And it's for Popper, and he starts singing it. Me and Jules just bawling, but actually, as a song, it's unbelievable. So I was like, the funeral's tomorrow. It was like 10 o'clock at night. Yep. I was about to put him to bed, and I said, "Oh, Archie, let's duck up to the studio. We'll quickly record it." Wow. And we recorded this version. We played it the following day at the funeral. And
was there a dry eye in the place?
Oh no. It was at the wake, and everyone was crying. But also, just the other day, I just finished my album, so literally just finished recording it. It's been 4 years, and there was these harmonies on this particular song, "The Keys." It's actually my favourite song on the album, and I needed a more like soft, sweet tone, and then I thought, I'll get Archie in. And Archie comes in and he puts down the first part. And I went to tell him the harmony, and he just sung it. He went, no, I'm good. Just hit record, Dad. So I recorded. Then he sings the third harmony. He's got it. And but here's the interesting thing is what I realised as a dad early on is I needed to make an effort to look past my own interests, because I had realised that I was forming this bond and this connection with Hudson for selfish reasons, because he was doing things I was fond of doing. And so I had to make this real concerted effort to enjoy the things that Archie enjoys, and to not force him to come fishing with us, or not but to have our moments and do our things. So music's our thing that we connect on, and basketball. Like, I've never been into basketball, but Archie, because he's obsessed, he's got me into basketball, and luckily he is into cricket, so I've been coaching him in cricket, which is nice.
When it came to becoming a dad, like, how did that change you as a man?
I think it was just the most nervous I've been, and I've faced some nerve-wracking moments in my life, but this one felt so weighty, I think, because I it's a human being, and I'm responsible for that human being, and
haven't done it before.
I hadn't done it before. And I'll be honest, like, Jules and I weren't necessarily like, we loved other people's kids, but we were never like, I cannot wait to be parents. Like, we just weren't. That's the honest truth. Like, I think possibly also because when you're an artist, there's so much focus on yourself. Like, it's almost selfish. Like, you feel the weight of all of the people who have invested into you as fans, and all the business side, your labels and managers and everyone, and you feel like you've got to serve them so much. Like, what room do I have left?
Where are they going to fit?
Yeah, and when am I going to play golf? So I was
when
like,
am I going to go fishing?
Yeah. So I'm joking, by the way, about that. But I think I just felt this pressure that I won't be able to do both. there's no way I'll be able to do both. Once I'm a dad, that's probably it. Because I want to be a dad. Like, I want to be hands-on, and I want to dote and love on my kids, and it's all good if the career takes a back seat. And so what I quickly learnt is that isn't the truth, and that being a dad actually just really shifts your priorities, and it causes you to focus and use time effectively, and it made me it made me a much better artist, and obviously it makes you a much better human being, because you realize that life isn't about you, and it was
a massive expansion. I think also that experience of powerful love. Like, you sing about love, but until you hold your first child, I think, wow.
Oh, it's different. It's and it's funny, like one thing I always tell, because I've got a lot of friends who are entering fatherhood, and
mention the podcast, please.
Yes, of course. No, I will. And it's funny, the negativity that surrounds fatherhood a lot amongst males, because it's like, we get all those, and females as well, but it's like, good luck, just going away for the weekend, or good luck going to the movies, or good luck doing this and that. And it's funny, that was what was in my head, because everyone had said it to me. And when I held Hudson for the first time, there wasn't one thought of me that wanted to be anywhere else. There wasn't one thought that where I was like, I wish I was seeing Mission Impossible 3 right now. I was so engrossed and so in love. And I hate saying this because it sounds so cheesy. It sounds like an old, like, 80s ballad title or something, but it was literally, if I had to describe it physically, it is almost like this whole new chamber ventricle opens up that you didn't know. Yeah, your heart just goes, you're like, oh, I never felt it that deep before. I've never felt that much love. And I would just, for hours, I'd hold Hudson's head and I'd just kiss his forehead for hours. And I don't know, it was just this different experience of love and fear. You're just scared. I was that dad that, like, would have the little monitor that where if they stop moving, it alerts your phone, and I'd go in every 15 minutes to check that he was still breathing. And then your second comes along, you're like, they're sweet.
That's it. You should try the fourth. So tell me, even though your dad was, working away a lot, but what did you learn from your own dad about being a dad?
My dad, I think most of all, just through his job, and the biggest thing I learned about him was sacrifice. Because when you're a fly in, fly out worker, and you working your butt off just to put your kids through school and give them the best life you can, you see the toll on him. And these are back in the day where there's no mobile phones, there might have been one phone call that he had a month. It was almost, it sounds like jail, but it was true. They didn't get phone calls and stuff. It was, they're in the middle of the ocean sometimes on these oil rigs, and
no Wi-Fi.
No, and working 16-hour days, and my dad, as I've gotten older, he's talked to me about a lot of the challenges he had. My dad's really dark skinned, and he's only sort of small in stature as well. My daddy's not tall. He got picked on a lot because he was a superior, I guess, in his role. And there's all these big, burly miners that are like, mate, don't tell me what to do. And he had a tough time with, I guess, his cultural difference. And so yeah, it's funny. It's a completely different generation because with my boys, I've tried to emulate so many great things that my dad was to me, but then through no fault of my parents, there's this generational and cultural approach to parenting that I also think maybe could have been better. And I think one thing that I grew up in, was fairly religious, and it was fairly culturally quite conservative. So we didn't talk about anything. We never talked about, like, having a partner. No way. Like, there was never any sort of sexual education or you just wouldn't go there. And every girlfriend I had a nightmare time, because my mum had a tough time. Like her boys were everything, and her dad's gone. Like her husband's away. She didn't want to say goodbye to her boys. She loved us so much, and it was tough for her. I think she thought, who are these hussies coming in to take
Steal
my
my
boys? And so they had Jules had a fairly tough time. Miriam, my sister-in-law, so I think there's certain things that I'm trying to do a little differently, and one of the biggest things is communication. I just tell my boys anything like we talk about. We're not the sweep under the rug family. We're like everything's normal. Whatever you're doing is up for conversation, and you don't have to hide anything, and there's no judgment. Like we chat about everything.
Yeah, and I think you're already doing the connection, which is your dad wasn't able to from physical distance. You're still prioritising. You just explained how important it is connecting to each boy.
Exactly.
See, those are things your dad wasn't able necessarily.
Well, yeah. I mean, when he was home, he was just very loving and still the disciplinarian. We were much more scared of Dad's discipline than Mum's, and so he had such an important role, and very loving, very very kind man, and just he. I don't know. I look at my dad as a hero. I really do, because I'd remember. It was funny. I was having a conversation today. There's some things I'll share a little later, but it's a fragrance that I'm making, and the inspiration is my dad for this fragrance, and because that's the thing I would always remember. It's why I'm obsessed with fragrance. Like I've made a couple already, but this one that I'm doing that I'm really nervous about is the male one, because everywhere I go, people will actually comment on my scent. Like all my life, like my whole career, radio people will comment on the smell, and it's always this thing I've worn with pride, because I was like, that to me was my dad, because every time he'd leave for the oil rigs, his scent would linger, and it just
wasn't Old Spice.
No, funnily enough, it was Drakkar Noir, which is really old school. Or Brut, which you know what?
I've given that to my dad for a birthday present.
Though, I love the smell of Brut. Like, that's the thing. I think when it comes to scent,
I probably
there's
need
no
to go
judgment.
and sniff one in a shop to see if it does that.
Imagine creating such an iconic scent that is like, it's Brut, and back in the day for me it was like Cool Water, when that was all the rage, and it's so iconic, those little moments. But anyway, I was talking about my dad, and that was the thing that he that shirt that he would wear to catch the plane to go to the oil rig. I remember all of those details. Like I knew the shirt he'd put on, and I knew the aftershave that we'd smell after he's gone, and I knew that was Dad going to do something for us. And it was just this like hero kind of like send off. It was really cool.
And that hug when you can smell it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a big question. Guy, so what would be your biggest fear at now raising your two beautiful sons in today's world?
I think there's so many, it's hard to choose the I feel like I'm my son's worst enemy when it comes to courage, because I am so riddled with fear for them. And so it's a constant fight for me, I think, internally, to not dump that fear on them. Because I noticed it with Hudson, him being the first, I wouldn't even let him walk like on the traffic side. He would have to walk on this side. Like everything was like, no, don't do that, because you could. I'd give him the doomsday like extreme of every scenario, and all I did was raise a kid that I had to then whack the fear out of him. Like, that was not the right term, but like I had to actually on the other end
build his bravery.
Keep telling him, mate, don't be scared. Like you got this. You're good. So I had to almost overcook that and just keep reinforcing. Don't be scared. You're good. You're good. and that was my fault. It was because literally, and then I saw this. So him at Disneyland. I'm not going on that ride. I'm not going on that ride. And then here's my youngest one, who I didn't do that with. It was like, oh yeah, that's not even scary. Yeah, let's go. So I think I realised that I actually instilled a lot of fear in my child because of my own, just I was scared to lose him. I was just scared. I almost just put too much cotton wool around him, and it was selfish. But I think
it comes from a good place, though. We need to know
we're
biologically wired to want to keep our kids safe. So there's times it's not easy to step back when they want to climb higher up the tree. We have to be really okay with that.
But it's a strange answer, and it's not such a direct answer.
Yeah, but what about
my
the
biggest
fear towards both of them? Now you've got a brave one and
so that's I think my biggest fear is them. This is hard to articulate, but like us sitting down when they're 30 or 40, and saying, "Hey, there was this element of your parenting that like has caused this to happen in my life." Because I feel like sometimes there's things you don't even know you're doing. Like, and that's one example of like, Dad, dude, like, you've made me scared of everything. like you would always say, don't walk there because you might get run over, or don't do this because don't surf there because you'll get caught in a rip and a shark will eat you and you'll die. Like Dad, you made me scared of everything. And so even though we mean well, sometimes I think I've realised through just doing life and having such a wide reach of people, your parents do influence so much of your life, and it can stay with you for the rest of your life. So I'm probably a bit of an overthinker of that, and I've come to this point where I've realised we can only just do our best. Like, we can only just try our best. And but that's my biggest fear. I don't want them to sit down like later on in life and go, yeah, you really like cooked this for me.
So I've got good news. We're all scarred from our childhood. And I think when you're surrounded by, what I call strong connection and secure attachment, then those things later are done in a much lighter way. That we can say, oh yeah, Dad used to overprotect me, but really what I've needed to do in my life is learn my own way forward through that.
Yeah.
Because we've all got a story from our childhood that probably needs a tweaking.
Yeah. And I think that's the important lesson, isn't it? Like to actually raise kids to think for themselves.
Oh, mine throw me under the bus all the time now because they're older and they're, like 40s. So let's just show Mum what else she did wrong. She thinks she's a parenting, guru. So put that one aside and then think back to, is there any other parenting fail moment that you had that, you didn't do a head count, or you forgot something, or can you think of another parenting fail that can share?
There's been a few.
Oh, good.
A comical one that my son never lets me down. There's one that my son never lets me live down, and we were fishing down the south coast at Jirowa, and it was a busy, I think it must have been like Easter or something, because there was so many people on the beach. And I'm always in those instances already like anxious, because I'm like, everyone's watching me launch my boat. Now down there, I launch off the beach. So you can launch off the beach down there, and then you can park your car like on the beach. It's got little parking.
I walk my dog in the same area.
Oh yeah. So down there mainly I just take my tinny out. I've got this little tinny with a little 8 horsepower motor, and so I'd launch the boat. There was only a little bit of swell. It wasn't like big waves to get over, and so I've gotten over the first wave, and then I remember dropping something, or something diverted my attention, and I've gone to pick it up, and I've nudged it's a little tiller steer, right, with the little handle lever. That's what steers it. And I'm sitting at the back. Hudson's sitting on the front. And we're heading out to our little squidding spot where we get squid, and this next line of wave come over, and just as these waves are about to hit, I've reached down to get something. I've bumped the tiller steer, and the boat's just hooked at like 90 degrees. Hudson's literally just grabbed onto to the edge of the boat, stayed in the boat, but I've been flung out the back. And the boat is doing this circle, right? And people are on the beach just going, oh my God, Guy Sebastian is just a clueless like fool. And Hudson's on the boat going, Dad, Dad, because this boat is just circling me and I'm trying not to get hit by the prop. And I'm thinking in my mind,
Yeah.
oh,
it's going to be great all
my
over
God,
the media.
what am I going to actually do here? Like I'm going, and Hudson's he's thinking about jumping, and I'm saying, and I'm like, Hudson, do not jump off, because I'm thinking if he jumps off, he's going to get hit by the prop. So I'm like, stay on the boat. And then I'm trying to tell him to rip the little key switch thing off, but I thought, nah, he's panicking. He won't be able to do that. I've got to try and just jump on this boat. So it's come around a couple of times. I've missed it. I've tried. I've like narrowly missed the prop, and then it's come around again. And I realised, oh no, I don't think this is actually going to work. So I've said to Hudson, okay, I saw the pattern the boat was taking. It was quite consistent, and I was like, Huddy, just jump off that way and swim that way, because he had his life jacket and everything on. So he's jumped off. He swum over there, and I said, don't swim towards me. And then somehow I've grabbed the boat. It sort of whacked me in the ribs, and I've grabbed it, jumped on, and just turned the motor off. And
you get an applause from anyone on the beach? Because that would have been so spectacular.
There was just people pissing themselves. They were honestly on the beach, just like hurled over, pissing themselves, laughing. And I was mortified. I was like, jump in, Huddy, jump in. And he's like, you nearly killed me, Dad. You nearly killed me. Screw this. Let's go home. I was like, please, can we fish for a while? I don't want to face the people on the beach. But he literally brings that up every Christmas.
I love it. I love it. It's going to be a story that goes all the way and beyond. Trust me. Yeah. All right. So now let's correct it with a big dad brag. What do you think is, parenting win as a dad?
I think mainly just presentness. I don't think there's any dad like grandeur. There's nothing really major I've done except just decide to be there. Like, even culturally, my wife and I grew up very different culturally, and so like going to all my kids' sports and saying no to certain work things and making sure, no, I'm not doing that. He's got his cricket, like it. First rugby game he just played the other day, and I think just presentness is probably the thing that I would give myself the most credit for, because I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything else, but my biggest wish is just for them to grow up normal. I think they're so mature in the way they handle having a public figure.
I ask you that. How difficult has it been for them having a famous dad?
It can be tough. I think it's just different for the different kids. Like for Hudson, he's loving it. He's 13. Yeah. I think he just milks it. He's a good-looking little rooster, and he's the best time ever. Like Huddy just loves his mates. Like he is the best time. Just wakes up. He's been like this since he was born. He wakes up, he's like, what are we doing with right now? Like, why are we sitting down? Like, so much we could be doing with right now. And he's just like, he goes from like asleep to 100, and
that's a rooster.
Yeah, he just literally wants to maximize life. He is so fun and like just a good time. And then Archie's just this deep thinking kid that can be in a room by himself and read, and like he's very deep thinking and very astute. Like, academics are not like he's not that interested, and the thing that comes naturally to him is the arts, and he's very connected, very social. He's Jules. Like Jules, I always say to me, she's one of the most socially aware people that I know. She doesn't just talk. Like I have the tendency to just waffle on. She won't talk unless she's really thought about what she's saying, and she's always so perceptive and so empathetic. Her empathy is amazing. Like she's just a very astute. Anything to do with people, I'll go to Jules. Like I'll be like, oh, what do you think here? And she's always very calm and measured and very, very loving, very good with people.
Yeah. Definitely lucked out with that one.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right, so this is another big question. So, what is the one thing that you want your boys to learn from you because you are their dad? Only one.
Only one. Yeah. The one thing. It's hard to choose one thing. I think the biggest thing we talk about at home is honesty. Yeah, it's hard to nail one thing because yeah, it's I would say on a moral level, you said one thing, sorry, on a just a human, like good human, just tell the truth, even if it sucks. Like tell the truth. But I feel like maybe the most powerful thing that I've been able to hand to them isn't even because of me, but because of my life. I look at Archie in comparison to how I grew up in Salisbury East, of Adelaide. It wasn't necessarily, this place where you grew up thinking, oh yeah, I could be a pop star. Like I could be famous. I could win a TV show and be in on people's radios. That I can't even tell you was about as far as you could get from my imagination even. And whereas I look at my boys, they're like, oh yeah, dad does it. Like that's an actual thing. Like I could do that if I want. Yeah. So you've enabled the dream, which is half the battle, even more than half the battle, just by them being exposed to everything I'm exposed to and sitting side of stage as babies, and they've just looked at it and gone, yeah, that's normal. You can do that. Easy.
Enabled bigger dreams.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
So I've like almost eliminated that self-doubt of big things being possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And I didn't even do it. Like it wasn't even something that I had to do. So
Pretty sure it had a lot to do
oh,
with it.
well, yeah.
All right, so our final question, if you could like wind back the years and go back and talk to Guy before he became a dad, what is your biggest piece of advice that you would have for them?
Probably learn how to manage stress. I think that's the biggest one. Yeah. I think I would just. I don't even know if I'd believe me. I don't think anything I could say to me then would. I don't know if I'd believe, like, because I don't know if I believe it now. But it's probably the biggest thing I still want to tell my now self that I would try and tell my then self is. Yeah. I know it seems ginormous in your head right now, but it'll be okay. Yeah. It's not that big. It'll be all right. Like you'll get through. Love it. That's terrible advice. You got to believe the advice to go back in time and tell your former self to your younger self.
I'm pretty sure you can stand here now and say it's going to be all right because it is all right.
Yeah.
So, but then you had so many worries and it was a heavy kind of thing, and then
I think the weight. It's very difficult to describe because like I grew up in church. Yep. And I just went back actually on the weekend for a wedding, and it's not really that it was quite a long time ago that circle of people that I would see every week at rehearsals and on a Sunday, and when I was a kid I went on Idol, and so then you're almost like they claim you as the poster boy, and they want you to be this certain way and talk this certain way, but it was never I never wanted to tell people how to like what it's just because I do it this way. It's none of my business what you do. Like that was always my thinking, but that wasn't good enough in that circle, and then in the for the rest of the world, it was like. Somehow then you absorb all of the terrible like tags that get thrown onto religion. So you absorb that, and so you're not good enough for them, you're not good enough
rock in a hard place,
and you're just floating in the middle somewhere, and that's been very hard to kind of reconcile. And I'm not interested in defending anything as well, because then you're throwing people under the bus that you love. So it's a very difficult thing to maneuver through, and yeah, that would probably be some advice I'd try and give my younger self as well, is you can't please everybody. That's more succinct, actually.
Yeah.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah, and
don't try.
And kind of be you.
Yeah.
Work out who you are and kind of be you, because I think that's the authenticity. That's what I feel about you.
And don't prove people wrong. Like don't think it's your job to prove people wrong who have wrongly assumed things or whatever. It's just a waste of energy.
Total waste of energy. Guy, thank you so much for our chat.
Pleasure. No worries.
Definitely
Great.
you're good enough, Dad. I'm giving you the elephant stand.
Yes.
You're a good enough Dad.
I'm trying. It's all we can do. It's a tough job, but I love it. Oh, it's the best job.
Okay. Musician and singer Guy Sebastian. Wow, there was so many things in his deep chat. And so some of those fantastic points we've just got to put in our good enough dad checklist. So the first one, it's normal to worry about messing up your kids. You know, the time you shout, the time you weren't, quite as fair. And we all have childhood scars. And the big thing that makes it different later on is, did you love me fiercely and unconditionally? Because it's easy to forgive. Second, communication. Unbelievably important when we have age-appropriate, honest, open conversations, because that is what builds that sense of connection, which allows the sense of unconditional love to land. We have to be seen, we have to be heard, we have to be accepted, and then we can be loved. Beautiful message. And the third thing, be mindful not to allow your own fears and anxieties to impact your children, despite the fact that we're meant to keep them safe. Sometimes keeping them too safe can make them even more fearful in our world. I'm Maggie Dent, and this is The Good Enough Dad. Please subscribe and rate this podcast, because it means more people will find it, especially our dads.